How do, Steve? Apologies, I'm listening to a podcast while I do this. It's the first time I've gone live on YouTube, so I'm just trying it out, really. We're building these Plastic Soldier Company Panzer IVs. They arrived in the post this morning. I'm just going to put these together very quickly. Don't expect a great load of commentary, unless people ask me questions, obviously. Am I going to be using it for O Group? Good question. They'll probably end up being used in O Group. They're not specifically for O Group, but they are going to be. They're just going in my general pile. Really, I'm not really thinking about what they're going to be used for. What I'm doing is I want to do a couple of these as the Panzer IV F2s because I don't have any, and I do like the Panzer IV F2. And I also want the Aus F1 as well, which you may be able to see on the instructions there. So I want the one. I've already got the H. I've got loads of those, 5 of those. So I'm going to do probably 3 F2s because I prefer the F2s, and I'm going to do the F1s as well. I want to do them late war, I think, for both, because I don't have any of the short barrel Panzer IVs for late war. So that's the plan at the moment. As I say, it's not really a working plan. It's just I've got some models. I'm going to build them, and I also thought let's do this on YouTube Live as well while test it out, see if it actually works. I've been thinking about doing it in recent times, just painting videos and things, you know, as well as the AARs, because I spend a lot of time painting, so I may as well film it as well. As I say, at the moment, I've got half listening to a podcast while I'm doing this, because that's what I usually do, but I don't want to play it out over YouTube because it's somebody else's podcast. But feel free to keep throwing questions in. Feel free to share the link as well. Oops. Hi Andrew, how are you doing? Good to see you. Just to tell you, Andrew, I'm listening to a podcast at the moment. That's why I'm a bit quiet. But I'm just try out the YouTube live and see how it goes, and just to see if I can set it up in the war room at least. I thought while I'm building these Panzer IVs that Richard Naylor sent me this morning. As well, these lovely plastic soldier company vehicles. I haven't built any of these for God, it must be about 10 years, I think. Just currently at the moment, just cleaning up all the rubbish. I've got most of the PSC 15mm stuff is some of the best, I think. Really, really nice. I've been a fan of theirs ever since they started with those T-34s back in the day. I think I've got some love. I think I've pretty much got at least one of every one of their German and Soviet releases. I think in 15mm anyway. I should say, really, I'm Top Media. It's the South Wales Warlords, and I'm listening to their recent podcast on social media. I'm listening to part 2 specifically because the eccentric man Ken is on there, and I'm waiting for his interview to come along. So I'll have a little listen to that. All right, check it out. It's an interesting podcast on wargaming and social media. You had your first face-to-face game today. Wow. Someone wasn't your missus. I wish my missus would play war games with me. I'd be very happy, man. She wouldn't even entertain the idea. But that's good at least since October. You've done better than me, I think. I haven't played at least for a year, I think now. Not a war game anyway. But it looks like the end of COVID is coming into sight finally. I think so. I think we'll all be back together again, playing games and taking a piss out of each other. I'm fairly sure. Your missus plays war games, does she? Well, she's sounds like a keeper. What's say not so much since COVID? Why not? I mean, if it's personal, don't tell me. But I think people are probably just a little bit under the weather, aren't they, with the whole lockdown and bad news all the time, I guess. I know my missus is. It's not great to see it. Hello, friends of General Haig. Yeah, you're definitely amongst friends here if you're friends of General Haig. Work's been busy. Well, that's a part of the thing, isn't it? They keep telling us to go back to work, but most people have been well, a lot of people have been working from home, and it's just not changed anything, has it? In fact, a lot of us have got busier. PSC's 172nd. Yeah, I don't have any of those because most of my game's 15 mil. If you've watched any of my videos, you may know that, you may not. But yeah, big fan of General Haig. Big fan of General Haig. 5 Panzer IVs, General Haig. It's the PSC box set. Richard Naylor over on Twitter sent them to me. He was getting rid of some of his kit, and I was a bit greedy, so I thought, well, I'm going to take a few off him because I wanted to build some Panzer IV F2s. In fact, so what I'm going to do is going to stop this podcast. I'm going to chat to you guys since you take the time out to come and have a watch of this. And I just thought I'm going to try out live YouTube. I've never done it before. Oh, well, I did a quick test a while back, but I'm set up a little bit better up here with the things. James Chevrolet. Yes, I did. James, I did actually record the Malaya game, and it is actually edited and it is currently uploading onto YouTube as we speak. However, I've got such a backlog of figures to do that of videos to do that it probably won't reach your screens for a couple more weeks, I would say. At this point, it's going to take a little while because I've got quite a few videos. Even if I put out 2 a week, I mean, I'm still, even though I finished the Malaya, the Chain of Command Kursk campaign quite a while ago now, I've still got videos of it that need to be put out. The thing is, I don't want to put out too many videos at one time because people just don't watch them or they get lost in the flood. Fred asks, what colour scheme you're planning for these? It's going to be late war, so it's going to be 3-tone camo, so at least Dunkelgelb for the bodies. I might do different camo schemes on them. I'm going to do for these, I'm doing them as the F1s and F2s because I don't have any F2s and I really like the Panzer IV F2. And I also want some of these short barrel F1s as well for the later war. So I don't have any of those. I just have them for the early war. So these are just going to be little bits and pieces I'm just adding for no particular reason. This is kind of the way I build up forces. Is just I get some stuff together and I think, oh, that's good. I don't build it towards a list, and then I've got a ton of then I'm going to have a lot of armor that I can just pull out of a box and put together quickly, if that makes sense. Did you use Japanese mortar sections in the game? No, I didn't actually, simply because I was just trying them out. I could have done, but I'm not sure how they would work really, because they're light more particularly good at the level of O group. so they might be good for using them like the British used their mortars as smoke and things. Now, what I found interesting in the game when I was playing it was that I didn't use a single shot of artillery, including battalion mortars, and I think that was largely because the Japanese were pressed right up at the edge of the Allies, so there just wasn't space for them to drop any mortars or any artillery on anyone. I tried it because if you're within 8 inches of the enemy, you can't fire at that enemy with artillery because it's the range is too close. So, hi Ivan, nice to see you. And yeah, the knee mortar, that's the it's like 2 centimeter mortar or something, isn't it? It's the thing that if you did use it on your knee, it'd take your leg off. How do, Wardrobe? Good to see you as well. I'm just building some Panzer IVs here. The entertainment of the masses, all 9 of you. So yeah, what was I saying? I didn't use the mortars. To be honest with you, I didn't really think about it. But what I might do is, in future, look at their training and think about how to use them. Like maybe 1 extra D6 attack or something as part of their section attack. That might be something that you could do with that. Quite easy. That's good to hear, Ivan. You're getting rule writing going. I suppose it is your job. There we go. So for those that have just joined, I'm building Plastic Soldier Company's Panzer IVs, 15mm. I'm going to do a couple of different types of these. I've got 5 of them to build. I'm going to do a couple of the F2, probably 3 of the F2 types and 2 of the F1 types, the short barrel. So I can use these for later war vehicles. Okay, well, Ivan, this is the first time that I've done a live stream, so you're on the very first one that I've ever done, so don't worry about that. I don't know what time it is in the US at the moment, or where you are in the US. It's currently 5:25 here in the UK. I don't know if you guys whereabouts you are in the US actually. I'll make sure I get the back plates in the right way up, otherwise it's going to look a mess. How does that sit in there? We're probably a bit past noon. Cold as ass balls, Michigan. Fair enough. I'm just thinking, just a second to think about this. I think it goes like that. Clean these up a bit. The camera that I'm using it's a Logitech webcam. This, when I started making YouTube videos way back when now, almost 2 years ago, this is the thing that I bought because I'd seen other people were using them, and I bought it. It's like a standalone webcam. The camera on my the microphone is basically built into that, so it's just literally part of the whole kit and caboodle. It cost me quite a bit of money, I think, at the time, but it certainly served me well, and I use it for my other computer downstairs when I'm doing Zoom calls and things, and it works well for that. And I just thought, let's see if it works on the old laptop up in the loft. Yeah, Richard put in the complete tracks as well. I've not used these before. I've the old Panzer IVs I built are the ones with the split track, and yes, they are a pain if you get them in the wrong way round. It takes a lot of dry fitting, which is always a bit of an annoyance. I don't know if you can see the detail well on this. That's good. That's good to know. I'll show you what I normally use for my filming. when I'm filming AARs and things, this is what I normally use. You see, it's actually now covered in all kinds of crap because I've used it for painting videos and things as well. So it's getting a bit dirty. But for some, unfortunately, this camera doesn't connect. Isn't a webcam, so it doesn't connect to the webcam. The creaking you can hear is my chair, which is pretty crap and old, I'm afraid. Well, that's interesting to know because me and my wife were talking about live streaming and stuff earlier. And she was saying she suggested that I do some, so that's why I kind of set up. And she said, interestingly enough, she said that there's been people, and I didn't know this, that people live stream or they make videos of themselves studying. So if you're studying at college or university or something, or you're working, you can just watch a video of somebody just literally studying, and that's it. And I thought that's crazy, but she said like millions of people watch these videos. And when you think about it, you think, well, yeah, actually, it's like companionship, isn't it? While you're just doing something, you don't feel as though you're on your own. Somebody's sat there with you. Make a model of the camera. This one, this Panasonic. This is it's Panasonic. Yes, it's a Panasonic. I don't know if you see that HCV 180. Being social alone. Yeah, exactly. This is about £100. I don't know what that is in foreign currencies, or other currencies, but about £100. But to be honest with you, it's been the best thing that I've bought for YouTube, and it's a really good clear camera. It's got a great microphone on it. It's got a good sharp picture, and all of my after action reports are filmed with it, so you can kind of see what it does. The webcam that I'm using, the Logitech one here, this is also a really nice sharp camera as well. So I'm quite chuffed that I bought that. So I'm very chuffed that it's actually working for this as well. So, as with all Plastic Soldier Company kits, these are going together lovely. Really like them. So I've not built any of their Panzer IVs for probably at least 10 years now, but these are an absolute dream to me. I mean, I like building models anyway. It's one of the big parts of wargaming for me, is the building and the painting and stuff. Well, that's the board game one. Yeah, Aardwolf goes live while clipping counters. That's something I've never really understood, clipping counters. It was explained to me by one of the guys on the I can't remember the name off the top of their head. It'll come to me. The Player's Aid. He explained it to me, Alex. I think he told me it was it's to make them easier to pick up, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, we do some mad things as wargamers, but God, I don't think I could spend hours clipping. But I think it's a good way of, I suppose, a good way of passing the time while you're doing something is just chatting on a live stream to people. Oh, well, they're nice. These are the one-piece tracks. These go together really nicely. They're lovely. Absolutely no fuss whatsoever with those. 15mm heroic black powder stuff. What do you mean by heroic? Do you mean heroic scale, or the theme is heroic? Well, you say your live streams are going well. That's good. Yeah, exactly. Oh, 18, yeah, the 18mm is definitely heroic. I mean, I've got the Napoleonic 18mm stuff, and my God, it's big. But I like it. It's nice. But yeah, it certainly doesn't mix with the other 15mm stuff. How do, Andy? Nice to see you on here. I wasn't sure how to invite people on Twitter, unfortunately. So if people can find their way here, then great, good for them. And what we're saying, yeah, it's guess the equivalent of hanging out and painting, listening to music like when we were teenagers. It's very true, actually. Except I can't hear anybody. You can all hear me just rattling on, and my chair creaking as well. Definition of frustration in the olden days, putting the wheels and tracks on the FX tanks kit. Yes, yes, definitely. There's that infamous Airfix kit, I think, isn't it? Is it the Churchill? I think, isn't it, with billions of road wheels on it? But apparently, the sprue itself was set up perfectly for you just to literally put the road wheels, glue them straight on, and you could just snip them off, and they were in exact position that you would need them. But I don't think they ever actually realised that. Nobody realised it. They didn't advertise it. So look at some of these. God, they're coming in thick and fast. Where are we at? After fantasy themed basques with steam powered golems. Okay. Something a little bit outside of my eye line, but you know, whatever floats your boat, if that's what you're into. Napoleonic's new line designed 20mm. Yeah, I used to have millions of 20mm Napoleonics, Eschi ones when I was a kid, and I got rid of them all for millions of Airfix World War II 20mm. I've never really gone back. I should have done, really. Literally millions. One group has allowed one guy. Yeah, that's true. And you say you keep meaning to do NAP skirmish, but keep waffling on supply. AB, yeah, the ones that I've got, Ivan, are AB miniatures, and I can't recommend them enough. I knew they were good anyway because I'd had some in the past. And hi Troy, hello from Rotherham to Vancouver. I've had some in the past, and I'd forgotten how good they were. And the new ones I got, the Nassau that I got recently, and the British that I got are just fantastic. I'm currently waiting for a bunch of French to turn up, and I will be doing short practice with them as soon as possible. So I expect some videos of that at some point in the future, as I make loads of mistakes on those videos as well. Andy, yeah, sorry, these kits are PSC, Plastic Soldier Company. They're the old Panzer IV ones, but they're ones with the integrated tracks. Yeah, the marching poses, you're right. Hi, Ivan. Nice to see you on board. The marching poses, I agree. For skirmish, it doesn't really work, but with the AB figures, they have quite a few different poses for at least for the bigger armies. So like my Nassau probably I think have 3 different poses. They only have like the march attack, but the British have, you know, firing, standing, reloading, and do loss. So you can really put together quite a lot of different poses just from, you know, a few different packs really. And I don't know if they sell them in the US singular, but Eureka Miniatures in the UK certainly sell them singular, so you can pick and choose as to what you want, which is always very, very nice. PSC are lovely. I need to get some British trucks for my 8th Army. Yeah, I've got quite a few British trucks. I've gone really for Malaya, but they're British trucks, so they could pretty much be used everywhere, to be honest. They weren't very inventive when it came to colour schemes, were they really, the British? So green, there's some black on it as well. So yeah, they work. There's US distributor for Eureka. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you only really need a few different poses, don't you? If you know, if you're doing skirmish of say 20 men, you probably only need about 4 or 5 poses really, just to break it up. But yeah, they certainly definitely do enough. Yes, you ordering from the UK to the US is brutal. Yeah, I mean it always was anyway, but it's just got worse and worse, and it's going to get worse. But you know, we're building tanks here, not getting into politics. use the trucks as deployment points for. Yeah, that's a good idea for chain of command. It's a really good idea. It's nice and immersive, isn't it, to have things, bits of kit that you can use on the tabletop actually in the game. The thing, because I've been playing O Group, there's a lot of counters. I'm not mad keen on using a lot of kits, tokens, sorry, like order tokens and things. But I was thinking for O Group, all you have to do is just change the order token for a single figure, and you're done. You know, you just put the one figure down by the rest of the stuff, and it looks more immersive, I think, than having the token next to it. Yeah, I use got little supply dumps and things for my jumping off points for chain of command. I just think they just add a little bit to it. You know, they just add a frisson of interest to the table. Right, next up we are now building the turrets. So I'm going to do all 5 turrets first, and then I'll put the guns on in a bit. Open or closed hatches. I'm never quite sure. I like the little tank commander in this set. This little fella here. And you see that? This one, I like him. It's that classic signal front cover pose, isn't it, really? We'll have a think. I'll probably put a couple of those on some of these. So, okay. Half and half on the hatches. Yeah, I agree. I think you can also then use one of them as the commander figure, can't you? You can say it makes it a lot easier to see who is the tank commander from a distance. What else have we got on there? Gun barrels and mantlets. So what I'm going to do is going to get all the basic stuff together and put them together, and then I'll work on the other bits that need doing. Just cut these off the sprue. This is generally what I do. If I'm doing quite a few tanks like this at once, I'll just basically get all the bits together that I need for the next stage, clean them all up at the same time. It probably doesn't take any longer or quicker, but it feels like it takes forever if you're just working on one at a time. So I'll separate them all off, as I say, the sprues first of all, and clean up. These ones are a bit small for my clippers to get in. And they're all the same bits anyway. Is everybody having their long weekend? That's what I'm currently on. I'm on a long weekend. I can't wait, thinking today was Saturday, which is nice. Cheers, Ivan. Thanks for popping in. Get some more rules written. Make that moolah. Where are we at? Monty's boys get to trash those Panzers. Yeah, or probably more like Zhukov's boys, I would have thought. I don't play so many Western Front games. Thursday and Friday free. We have Friday and Monday free. That's interesting. Where's all the rest of the bits? And that one's cleared off. 5 days off at the moment. Yeah, nice. Oh, it's so nice when you turn off your morning alarm for the next 5 days. It's just, there isn't a better feeling, is there, really? Well, there is, but you know, obviously I've been hyperbolic, but right. And I'm getting there. This is always the most boring bit of it, I think. I'm just clipping them off the off these runners, off the sprues. It really, and then having to clean them all up. And the problem is as well with these tanks, there's quite a lot of tiny pieces, so it's pretty hard to actually hold the things. Now, I think you've missed Ivan, I'm afraid. He's already gone. Don't know if you can hear in the background, there's the Teddy Bear's Picnic playing. That's the ice cream van that's going round. Boring, that's where he came here. 7 armies finished since the lockdown. Wow, that's pretty good. That's a an achievement in itself. It's nice to know that they're ready and waiting, aren't they? Or will they just get put in boxes and left, like most of my stuff? 1 second, once I've done this. Who'd be interested in seeing the war room behind me? As Henry Hyde calls his, the Luftwaffe. I haven't been able to finish a platoon in that time. I never really count things as armies. I kind of just paint, and if it fits into something, if it fits into something, then it does. You know, I rarely work off lists. Well, I say that, but then like the Napoleonics I've been painting are working off a list. But stuff like World War II, for instance, is down to I've nearly bought 7 armies. Hey, buying's the same as painting, as far as I'm concerned. Right, let's show you the war room, as the wife calls it. Right, so you can see there. I've got those really useful boxes over there. That's terrain and also the figures as well. I can't go very far because the camera is attached to the computer here. That's a bunch of books there. They're mostly Osprey and things, and there's some board games to the right of those. There's also more books and more bits and pieces of scenery in that pile. What you can't see is there are 2 layers of those really useful boxes, and then there are 10 layers of other boxes as well behind, which are the smaller ones you can see, and they're full of figures. Over on that side, more really useful boxes full of scenery. That's the bigger ones. Then the war games rules are at the top of that. Little what's it called, with the little I can't think, be talking too much. The shelves. Then there's some more board games as well underneath there. And then I've also got on this side, that's the book collection, military history book collection. I think those two, at least those 2 shelves there, are full of First World War. There's probably loads more First World War in the next shelf across, and bits more of it as well over there. And then right behind me, right behind where I'm sitting, is another shelf full of board games and also their figures as well. Those boxes, really useful boxes. That's my 6mm Napoleonics collection, more board games. And then me, hello, and then my painting table where I'm doing this. So there you go, you've had a quick tour. So I'm just reading some of your comments here. I think Wardrobe, you just say you created a series of videos looking for people looking to get into the World War II gaming. I think that's great. It's a really good thing. Oh, the fella in the Feldholz, hang on, let me just go and get that for you. I'll show you exactly what you mean. That's this one here, isn't it, you're asking about, James? This guy, he actually doesn't have a name. We discovered a bunch when I was working in Bullecourt, excavating tanks. Underneath the tank track, we found the remains of 3 German soldiers, and 2 of them have been killed, but they seem to have been carrying the remains of this guy. He was literally, all he was a head and a trunk, so he was like literally just his chest, and his skull was pretty much intact. So we had a company called Face Lab based in Liverpool. They were there, and the woman Isabel, she basically took a scan of the skull, and they were able to reconstruct his face from that. So this is a reconstruction of this guy. Now we don't know if he had a mustache. We don't know what colour his eyes were. But they're pretty clear. You know, sure that's pretty much how he would have looked. And this photo was then mocked up by my photographer mate Harvey. He turned it into a sepia style 1917, 18 style photograph. And then my boss, who I was working for over there in Bullecourt, he sent me a copy of it. So I'll put it in a frame, because it's you know, it's interesting to look into the face of somebody that you've excavated, basically. Unfortunately, we'll never know his name because he didn't have any identification on him. Neither did the other Germans that he was with, which was a real shame. But it's just a nice little reminder of the work we did at Bullecourt. He's now buried in a military cemetery at Metz, so quite far away from Bullecourt on the German-French border. But at least he's buried in a military cemetery with his comrades. What he was doing there, we don't know. As I say, interestingly, he was buried underneath 2 other Germans who looked as though they'd been killed by an artillery blast. One of them was only about 17 years old from his bones. The other guy was probably about 35. Again, because bones fuse over time, so you can get a rough idea of somebody's age depending on what bones have fused. And we were able to work out one of the guys was about 17 or 18. The other one was he was, like I say, in his mid-30s. And right underneath them was that bloke, and he was literally a head and a chest, and he was laid out on a piece of German metal riveting gear, so for keeping the trench walls back. He was laid out on that, and he was directly on top of it. So oh, no problem, James. So I reckon, you know, coincidences don't happen in archaeology, so I think the 2 guys were carrying the remains of this bloke, possibly to bury him or to get him out of the trenches or whatever, and then they were killed in an artillery blast as well. It was literally, you know, it's like a really interesting little snapshot of the First World War, like literally a split second of things that happen. But yeah, that's the story of that bloke. Did you think he was one of my relatives, James? Or was he you just wondered? Okay, what's everyone doing at the Mo? Officer, possibly. It's impossible to say, really, because it could have just been their mate. But impossible to say because none of them had any insignia on, so we don't even know what unit they came from. We know they were German because they were wearing jack boots and they had German shirts on because they got German buttons on the shirts and other equipment like the gas mask canister and things. Interestingly, you say an officer, the guy who was he only had pistol ammunition on him, and the only people that have pistol ammunition in the First World War in the German army are either officers or machine gun crew. So there's a good chance he could possibly been part of the machine gun crew that those guys were part of. Impossible to say, really. All we can say is we got 3 German soldiers, and it happened. Whether he'd been dead for some time beforehand, as I say, they were just basically shifting the remains. Whether they were reburying a mate or they were just shifting remains because they were not so hygienic to have around. But interestingly enough, all 3 of them had been they'd got a British tank track placed over the top of them, 6 foot of British tank track placed directly on top of them, almost as a grave marker or something, or maybe just to cover them up because they were starting to get a bit stinky in the open air. Again, difficult to say, really. Interesting stuff. It's been a bit of a killer, really, not being able to get out back to France and to some of the battlefields and stuff this year, or last year even. I usually like to try and get there at least once a year, even if it's just a visit. What's the 2mm stuff you're doing, Steve? And the 6mm, what are they? I've been doing this for an hour now. I'm starting to get hungry. Right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these bits together, I think, and then I'll probably leave it at that for tonight. It's been a good hour, but don't worry, it's not finished yet. This was as I was saying earlier, this is just a test, really, just to see if I could do YouTube live and to see how it worked and if it was working up in the loft as well, because I'm quite far away from the router, so I didn't know if the signal would be strong enough to run a live video or not. But it appears to have worked, so I'm happy with that. The other thing about plastic kits is you always end up with these tiny loads and loads of tiny plastic fragments everywhere from the stuff you've shaved off. I suppose first world problems, isn't it? What do you say? Napoleonic 2mm. Wow, how can you tell the difference? 6mm Macedonian Zulu. Yeah, that is a bit of a mix. Wargaming Butterfly. Really enjoyed the live show. Love to see some more. Cheers, James. I will probably do some more of these at some point in the future. Interesting story about the German soldiers. Glad to know they're being reburied. What is the approach to reburial? How far back before the remains end up in a museum, e.g. Bronze Age? That is a very good question. Yeah, that is a good question. Probably, I don't know. I think some of it probably, but maybe 200 years or so. If they're about 200 years old, they will generally end up being reburied. So currently my friend is working in Hull on a big cemetery excavation there. They're doing a cemetery clearance and they are excavating all the remains. They're recording them all so they get a good idea of population and disease and all that kind of thing that you get from skeletons. And once they've been dealt with from an archaeological point of view, they'll all be reburied, but in a purpose-built cemetery for them. So the First World War stuff is generally, hi Paul, the First World War stuff, they generally get reburied in the closest military cemetery. So for the British and the French, that's a lot easier because there's a lot more of them. Whereas the Germans, there are fewer cemeteries So they end up basically wherever there's space. So they're a bit more spaced out. As I say, the guys that we found in Bullecourt were buried in Metz, which is, probably a couple of 100 miles away from where they were actually killed, unfortunately. Whereas a British soldier that we found at Serre, he was buried a couple 100 yards away from where he was found in the Serre Road Cemetery #2. So that's just different. Generally, there's a massive change though in archaeology over the last probably 10 years or so about human remains and how they're displayed. All right, Wardrobe, thanks for popping in, and thanks for the entertaining chat. I will be doing some more of these at some point. There's a massive change in archaeology with displaying human remains just in general. I mean, whenever we're excavating them, we generally put up boards so people can't actually get into the site and see them anyway. That's the usual thing. But with museums and things, there's a big rethink on how we look at people from the past, because they are still people. So nowadays, you'll probably find less and less that they were being put on display in a museum than you would have done, 200 years ago, where everything was like a scientific marvel. So it's like, well, we've got to show the public this. So yeah, there's a big difference in that. A lot of the time, like I say, a lot of stuff nowadays probably wouldn't be on display. The things that you do see on display are stuff that's been on display for years anyway. No, it's fine. Don't worry, it's not off topic. I don't. Hi, Avolo. It's not off topic whatsoever. I live and breathe archaeology, unfortunately. So it's interesting to get your view as a professional. Sometimes it feels odd that some things haven't yet been reburied just as they were very old. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's the difference. That's things. Because a friend of mine, she's an osteologist, and she deals with bones and remains and things. She knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. So she would be able to get you a much better informed answer than I can when it comes to museum collections. But yeah, a lot of archaeological remains end up really in storage, especially human remains and things. They'll end up in the archive of the company that excavated them, and they will stay there for some time usually, but that's just the way it is until they've been studied by osteologists, and then they can be reburied. I think a lot do get reburied. I worked on a cemetery site in the Barbican in York, and we found, I think, it must have been about 700 bodies, I think, in a tiny little area stretching all the way back to the English Civil War. We actually found some of the English Civil War soldiers. They'd all been buried face down as a sign of disrespect. So probably by their enemies. And I think all of those, and there was also loads of civilian graves as well, because it was a church site, and I think they were all reburied as well. It's Bellawood. Where's I don't know Bellawood. I don't know that place, Fred, I'm afraid. Your granddad was a Grenadier Guard in 1914 with the Old Contemptibles. He was wounded at Ypres. So certainly a lot of fighting at Ypres all throughout the war. Do you know much more about it, Andrew? Right, now we're getting onto these fiddly, horrible bits. So what I'm going to need is this. And plop you on there. France, a bullet wound. Right. Let's have a look. You can barely tell the difference between these, unfortunately. There's a tiny little slight slope on the cover. That just tells me. These say these PSC kits are fantastic, but their instructions are bloody awful, really hard. And if you're not a model maker and it's the first time you've tried them, I'd be very surprised that anybody be able to actually make them from these things without making a mess in the first place. Oh, you got his medals as well as the miniatures. Excellent. My great granddad, I've got his medals. I'm going to put this one on. I'll grab the medals. I'll show you, and I'll tell you the story of this. This is a good one. We'll go and grab those medals. Right, just over here somewhere. Where are you? They were over here somewhere. Here they are. Too much stuff. Too much stuff. So, these are my great granddad's medals. It's Pip and Speak, isn't it? The Great War medals. So that's them there. And I asked my mate. I've also got a medal from his friend as well. I'm not sure who he is. I keep meaning to go and check it out and find out who this other guy was. French or something it's called. And interestingly, I've got this little medal as well here. A little German medal, which came with a collection of my great granddad's. Now, it turns out that this medal here, this one, was given out to German women as part of the war effort when they raised war bonds. So that's what that is. It's a 1914 on it. Now, that came with my great granddad's medal collection. And my mate, who does family history, is an expert in it. I asked him if when he was next in Kew Gardens, if he would have a look up my granddad, because we got the number and everything. We got the numbers on things, but I just didn't know anything about his service. It turns out in 1916 he tried to join the army, the British Army, and he was held back because he was a reserve occupation. I think he was a miner. So because by 1916 they realized that if they let all the miners go and all the steel workers and stuff and everybody go to the front line, then they wouldn't be able to uphold the British industry. So he was held back as reserve industry. So he didn't get to join. He tried to volunteer. However, in 1918, he then was conscripted, I think, into the Durham Light Infantry. So he tried to join the Yorks and Lancs in the first instance, and then he ended up getting conscripted into the Durham Lights, and he ended up. This is in 1918. He ended up doing his training. He went out to France in October of 1918. Remember that the war ended in November of 1918, and the diaries, the regimental diaries for his particular unit, I'm kind of paraphrasing a bit here, but the diaries recorded that the Durham Light Infantry, his particular battalion, they ended up in France, and the thing that they did from arrival in France until the end of the war was play sport and recreation. And so basically, you think, well, the famous poster of "What did you do in the war, Daddy?" Well, my great granddad could quite happily answer, "I played football," because he never saw a trench, didn't see a bit of action. He just did sports and recreation for 2 weeks, and the war ended. Then he went on to become a member, part of the British occupation forces in Germany, because the British Army spent some time in Germany afterwards, and occupying parts, I think, of the the Rhineland and places like that. And then I'll take you back, if you remember, that medal that I've got is a German women's medal. So I wonder what old Grandad Hattersley was actually up to in Germany while he was in the Army of Occupation to end up with a women's German medal as part of his collection. So it sounds like he had a good time in his service, if nothing else. Played football and then just went out to Germany and shagged a load of women by the looks of it. Good on him, I say. And then he came back to Rotherham. I'm nearly finished with these now. I tell you what. Yeah, I'm just going to get these finished, I think, at the moment, because I'm starting to get a bit hungry. It's, yeah, it is an interesting story. As I say, that's kind of what I put together from his service record, if nothing else. At least it's difficult to tell really, unless you get a diary or something. But you know, that was his movements, at least in the First World War. Right, so yeah, I'm just looking at the time, and I'm starting to get a wee bit hungry now. So I'm just going to finish these bits off, and then I'm going to leave it at that for now, I think. But thank you for everybody for jumping in anyway, in the first place. It's been a pleasure. I didn't really advertise this, I just posted it on Twitter, but in the future when I'm doing it, I'll be a bit more vocal about it. And I might even finish these off and perhaps even paint them as a live stream. That would be quite interesting, I think, just to see how that works. I know quite a few other people do that. I know I've got the computer set up here. I don't see why I shouldn't. Right. See you, Fred. Thanks for popping in. Thanks for watching and comments and everything. You can relive the adventure later when I upload it to YouTube itself. There we go. That's the last one. So that's taken what, about an hour or so. I've almost got those finished. There's probably about another half hour's worth of work. I need to put stowage on them. I need to put the barrels on, and then they're probably ready for painting. Really, these ones I'm going to actually. I'm not going to fix the turrets down so they can be traversed. So, yeah, thanks everybody. It's been great. I am now going to shut this down, an hour and 10 minutes. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it, just sitting here talking rubbish. And I'll see you in the next live one.